Good morning. Let me start today. How do we actually deal with the issue of adverse selection? Because we have already seen that what is actually adverse selection and how we are going to solve these things. Individual may have different probability of experiencing a loss of individual know the probability more accurately than insurance or insurers. Market may not function properly, as I said in the beginning, so or in the earlier lecture. So assume that there are two individuals have the same initial wealth W star, and each face a potential loss which is L in that sense, and there would be a certainty line. That certainty line is nothing but a 45-degree line in that sense. So once you have a W star minus L, which is going to be an E, which will be giving you kind of loss. You can locate a loss. That is, suppose one person has a probability loss equal to pi h, while the other has a probability loss which is pi l. So if that is turned out to be the kind of this thing, this particular graph, and if you look into the graph carefully, this case, that is, you may be having in the certainty context or contour, you may be having 2 points, that is G and F. Both individuals will prefer to move to the certainty line if premiums are actually fair in that sense. So the line show that the market opportunity for each person to trade W1 to for W2 by buying fair insurance in that. So that is going to be the different slopes for different individual. That is, your F and G would have different slopes. That is, slope is nothing but minus 1 minus pi by pi L, pi L by pi L in that sense. So for the slope of G is also having minus 1. This is actually the slope of F. Once you want to look into the slope of F, you have this particular equation, that is minus 1 minus pi L by pi L. At the same time, if you want to know the slope of G, then you can have minus 1 by minus 1 minus pi h by pi h again. So this is what is gives you a kind of slope, and the low risk person will maximize utility at point F, as well as a high risk person at G in that sense. All right, so if you have an insurance having imperfect information about which individual falls into low and high risk category, this solution is unstable, because point F provides more wealth in both the state. High risk individual will want to buy insurance that is intended to low risk individuals. Now insurers will lose money on each policy sold in that sense. Now, one possible solution would be for the insurers to offer a premium based on average probability of loss, and since EH, which we have said, that is for F case and G case, which we had discussed in the graph. So in the F case and G case, there is a driving in and out, because the low risk persons would be actually driven out, because the high risk people will buy that kind of information, sorry, that kind of insurance. And this is actually makes the insurers to think about an average price which will be higher. Since EH does not accurately reflect the true probability of each buyer, they may not fully insure and may choose a point at EM. Okay, so this is again something to do with the point M is not an equilibrium point, which is because it is not actually in the certainty line in that sense. So you will always go at a lower kind of you take a premium, at the same time you may be having actually away from the uncertainty. And this is why actually I said in the earlier lecture that, in the bumper, even if you talk about a bumper to bumper insurance, you are not actually completely insured in that sense, because the company is not actually giving you sort of thing. So some portion of this particular thing you have to bear with. Then that loss, in order to minimize that loss, you'd be careful in that sense. Maybe because of that, I think that may be one of the reasons. Same, because some portion of money would be lost because if you hit. But normally what happens if the complete insurance is that you becomes reckless, and everything will be taken care of by the companies, and that is basically creates a disincentive from the part of the company, because company would be losing out in that sense. So uh, this is actually exactly one can show in the M case or an N case, which in this particular graph, if you look into it, this is an interesting way why one have to especially in the countries like in India, this is actually the case, and normally it is far lesser than this thing. So because both the insurers and the the people who are buying insurance, they do have this sort of a case in that sense. So if a market has a symmetry information, asymmetry of information, the equilibrium must be separated in some way. That is, high risk individual must have an incentive to purchase one type of information over the other in that sense. So this is again can be depicted with the help of this particular graph. That is, you have suppose that an insurer offer a policy G, high risk individual will opt for full insurance. If insurers cannot offer any policy that lies above UH, in that sense that your utility curve, because they cannot prevent high risk individual from taking advantage of it. And then the best policy that low risk individual can obtain, one such that J in the upcoming thing, then the policy G and J represent a separate equilibrium for the both case. So this is what is actually one can see from this particular case, which is actually low risk case. Now, once you have a low risk individual could try to signal insurers their true probabilities of loss, insurers must be able to determine if the signals are believable or not. So again, insurers may be able to infer accurate probabilities by observing their client market behavior. The separate equilibrium identifies an individual's risk category in that. So market signals can be drawn from a number of sources in that. So now you can say that there is an adverse selection, there is also a moral hazard problem. Solution of the moral hazard problem we will come in a while. But let us talk about the adverse selection, of how the companies overcome this particular problem. The first one is actually uh, action taken by the buyer, that is screening, and the other one is an appraisal, or the third one is called signaling. So action taken by the buyer is called screening. The less informed party takes action to learn about the true characteristics of the other side, and the action taken by the third party is normally called appraisal, and action taken by the seller is called signaling. And the better informed party takes actions to reveal her unobservable true characteristics in that sense. So let us look into the characteristics of the screening, issues of screening, etc. Screening is a process of actively collecting information. Banks ask proof of earning before issuing a credit card. Interviews for job candidates, interviews for jobs, and search cost and optimum searching, etc. Comes under the category of screening. So now person it is a better introduction than any letter. This is of course Aristotle's quote, but this is this is what is actually everybody thinks, and you yeah, but today people may be actually having some sort of reservation on that. So anyway, uh, and now what is actually we can see in the case of appraisal is also very interesting, because the existence of the search cost creating market power for a seller, it causes economic inefficiency, and economic experience leads to creation of specialized search agencies and credit rating agencies. For example, Moody's credit agents, Standard and Poor gives X companies credit are worthy, and Y companies are credits are not worthy, etc. So these are actually called appraisal, which was done by a third party. Of course, you are in the market, I am also in the market, and some third party will be recognizing me as whether I have worth buying company, or whether I am a good purchaser, etc. So these are called the appraisal, which is normally done by the third party, not the buyer and sellers themselves. But screening has been done by the buyer themselves. Whether this has to been purchased or not would be determined by the buyer themselves. But at the same time, on the contrary, the seller also have sort of techniques to come out of this problem of adverse selection. And this is what is called signaling problem, signaling through the way of signaling. For example, I am a company which produce some X commodity. So what I do is actually I signal my commodity that it is a good commodity. So this is why advertisements and all play a very good role. And it has to costly to convey information. The cost must be different to different producers in that sense. For example, guarantee and warranty. Earlier, people used to do, or give guarantee that is, this commodity has no failure. For example, the earlier German fans, that is this motor fans. Um, this is comes with a guarantee of 10-year, 15-year, etc. Now, if there is a problem comes, they now in offices of our kind, this German technology-based fans runs more than 50 years, sometimes even 60, 40, 50 years it goes. Actually, maybe the initial period was 10 or 15 years, but now most of the fans, runs more than, decades. So this is what is actually guaranteed. But now fans are not comes with guarantee. It comes with warranty. For example, a replacement parts are kind of short term things, not a replacement per se. So this guarantee, warranty, etc. Gives the reliability of commodity in that sense. And in an increasing competitive world, it is difficult to afford because the commodity has to sell. If your commodities are not basically being replaced by a newer commodity, then it is hardly difficult for you basically to be in the business. So that is why normally this business of virus, for example, we are all consumers of commodities such as computer, electronic device, etc. Most of the smartphones, because the life of a smartphone is not greater than 2 year or three. Why after 3 or under the phone get automatically hang? It is not because of that. It is actually not good. The technology made in such a way that it will get obsolete by itself, and the problem of virus again, for software, etc., is being inflicted by I don't call by the producers themselves. Normally it happens with, because yeah, the others can hack. Means you are giving a mold. If you are leaving a mold, then only the others can hack. Otherwise, this commodity may not be get replaced. And after some point, every commodity has a life in that sense. But most of the time what happens, before your time it get expires. And but there are good quality commodity where the producer always signals, and that is why brand matters. That is why some good quality commodities, people are behind good quality, because it's all kind of signaling. So the effective decision tool, because the cost of warranty and low quality producers is also high. And are you ready to give a diamond ring as the birthday present? In that sense. So this is actually a kind of question somebody can ask to someone. Why? Because if you are able to give a diamond original things to somebody, then you're caring that person much, because in that sense, maybe it's one of the way that your signals that you care the other person. It doesn't mean that you have to always give a diamond ring, but one way of, an economic way of looking at the problem. Okay, not necessarily the moral, ethical, or kind of a love perspective in that sense. Okay. Now, why people are always giving rings, or giving gold, etc., because they're signaling that they're so much, there is no taking back. I think this is a kind of signaling in that sense. So employer knew that there are two kinds of people with different capability among the potential job candidates. Miss Smart, that is Miss Smart is a quick learner and a diligent worker. At the same time, Mr. Dump is a slow and lazy worker. This is also kind of a signal, and it costs money and effort to complete the graduate program. Implicit cost and chance success differ between the kind of candidate. And these are all related with the initial talk which we had, that is the earlier lecture we had, which is completely depends on information itself, how much we are able to buy information. That will basically uh, determine whether you are making a good choice or not in that sense. So firms as information provider can be the next kind of understanding. That is, company have incentive to provide information to its potential customers. Advertising produces two effect, that is informative advertising as well as persuasive advertising. So there are, in the real world you have a set of issues, which is whether you want to basically make the person buy this thing, then it is called a persuasive kind. But simply you want to actually give an information, then also you can advertise. So this is not actually a persuasive advertisement in that. So advertising as a signal of a product quality, etc., can be an information. At the same time, there are so many advertisement which is normally persuasive. For example, earlier in a patriarchal sense, for a cigarette and or an alcohol advertisement, women were being placed under your boot. This kind of a picturesque kind of an advertisement was given, or you can actually dominate somebody. And the kind of picture were given in the advertisement in the original uh, earlier periods. These are actually kind of an indication saying that you can make domination by consuming this particular thing. You can become, see, all the kind of beauty, cosmetic kind of an advertisement. There are so many advertisement tells that if you use this thing, you become the ideal lady, the fair lady. Okay, so these are called the kind of colored toned advertisement. In fact, it's called the hegemonic advertisement in my mind. No, it creates a kind of hegemony, that is, this is good and the other thing is bad and all. So this is this is not an information advertisement. This is called a persuasive. So if you want to be this, then you have to use this. And there are so many advertisement of that kind you can experience, and you can write something on it if you wish, in the real world context in that sense. Again, quality of goods and pricing also comes with this thing, particular thing, and that I'll discuss in the next lecture. For the time being, let me wind up the lecture. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Thank you so much.